many main entries in the Xenoblade series exist? There's the first game, with Shulk traversing on the titans of the Bionis and Mechonis. Then there is also Cross with your own main character and Elma journeying through Mira. Rex and Pythra in 2 on various smaller titans, and Noah and Mio in the combined worlds in Ionios. Which makes 4 games. Exactly the same amount as every other mainline Xeno game in the past, counting Gears, Saga 1, 2 and 3. Why is that important, and why am I so certain that the next game will be vastly different to everything we have ever seen in the series? Surely a lot of you are aware of the situation that the older games ended up in. I won't go into mega deep spoiler territory for the older games, but if you consider playing the games in the near future and want to stay completely spoiler free, you may want to leave, as I will scratch on some of the lore that the games are built upon. Regarding Gears, most of you are aware of the timeline that exists, and Xenogears actually being part 5 of a 6-part story. Although, from what we know, part 6 was more of a placeholder that wasn't really developed yet, story-wise. There is a theory that ties into my final prediction of this video. Throughout the game, you constantly learn about things in the past and what happened hundreds and sometimes thousands of years ago. In a nutshell, just like in the story of Cross, all of it kinda happened because of the ancient human civilization, the ancestors of the modern human. Although this isn't where the Gears and Cross connections stop, but more on the Blade series later. Of course, Gears never continued, and Xenosaga became a thing with the newly founded team, which we know as Monolith Soft. But what do you do with a game where you created over 300 pages of lore and unused concepts? As any other person with common sense, you start implementing some of those concepts into the next game. Obviously, Xenosaga is not a sequel to Xenogears, but technically you could see it as a spiritual successor that theoretically could have taken place in the same universe, or even if not in the same universe because some things don't seem to line up, as I've been told, in a parallel universe. Thing is, some of the events that took place in Saga could actually fit story-wise into some of the descriptions for the other episodes of the original Xenogears timeline. Even better than the Blade games, but more on that later. Regarding Saga, that's what I've been told, right? I've yet to play Saga 1, 2, 3, but it will happen very soon on my Twitch and VOD channel. Check out the links. I think a good parallel between Gears and Saga would also be how the original Cross was not connected to the mainline games, and yet featured Teletheos, Nopons and other similarities. Saga did continue the story that Takahashi was never able to fully tell, and as many of you know, Xenosaga was also supposed to be a 6-part series, although they just ended up with 3 games. Which are, once again, 4 games altogether. Here we are now post Gears and Saga with Takahashi, who was probably very annoyed by all of it, which I totally understand. So much so that he wanted to go ahead and create a new IP called Monado, Beginning of the World. And the new IP would, drop the Xeno name, and it would have been something like the Final Fantasy series, that would start telling completely separate stories in the same universe. Then Satoru Iwata just came along and changed the future, creating the IP we know now as Xenoblade. And who knows, maybe with Cross they then decided to actually give it another try, since in a lot of ways, and also story and lore wise, it smells like Xenogears all over again. And actually gameplay wise too, with your skills and the fuel system. Although 2 started development during the development of Cross, which may or may not be related to Cross becoming a more online focused kinda game, which perhaps changed their plans a bit. But 2 and its DLC torn a release and actually also fit rather well into the Xenogears timeline. And then 3, which also reused a lot of concepts you'd see in Gears. But you might be wondering, okay, SparksOpus, but where do you want to go with all of it? Well, good question. Is it to say that Takahashi is just lazy and reuses old concepts all the time? No, absolutely not. But what did Future Redeemed do? It celebrated everything that the Xenoblade series has achieved. Referenced both Gears and Saga too in more than obvious ways. And ended the game with a song Future Awaits, which just highlights the end of the saga, the end of the storyline, and a new future that awaits us, with a final last shot of a star approaching this planet. Xenoblade Cross's story was never finished, so what did they do? They created the definitive edition that ends the new chapter with them approaching a planet with the ring. How did Xenosaga 3 end? With Cosmos approaching a planet with the ring. How did Xenogears end? Not with a planet with the ring, but instead it started with an unrelated cutscene with people approaching that planet with the ring. What is that planet? Well, according to Saga, it's Lost Jerusalem, and according to my Gears knowledge, Lost Jerusalem is the place where the old humans come from. And the reason I said before that the next saga is about the ancient humans, the one topic that Takahashi was never able to tell, the story arc that was always teased but never ended up being implemented into any game's stories. It always ended right then and there. And although Gears didn't end with such a cliffhanger, Faye has learned about them. And in theory, Part 6 could have been exactly that. Once again trying to find their origin. The origin of the human race. But after all these years, it does feel like things come full circle here. Just like in Ouroboros. We are 4 games in, and once again have arrived at that point where every previous Xeno game has never continued. Takahashi said that the next game will be something that none of us would expect. Something that will betray our expectations and will be vastly different to what we usually know from the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Or actually in this case, even the Xeno series. We have reached a completely new chapter. A completely new storyline beyond what Perfect Works has provided for us. The future awaits. Are you looking forward to the next Xeno game? Who am I kidding? Of course you do. I originally wanted to do this video after playing Saga, but I just couldn't wait to make this video. With the knowledge I already have from Gears and Perfect Works, I just had to. With games like Star Wars Outlaws, Resident Evil Requiem and Final Fantasy VII Remake running pretty fantastic on the Switch too, one might wonder how great the next Xenoblade game will look. But we might get our first teaser trailer at the end of next year already. Who knows? Thank you all very much for watching. And thanks again to all the supporters of this channel. All of you are the reason I still continue creating videos on here. And I hope you enjoy them. I wish you all a fantastic rest of your day. And I wish you all a real good one. Goodbye folks. See you guys soon.